Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about my journey and how I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I wanted to make this video in the hopes that some people might resonate with it, and if you feel like you have a similar situation and are thinking about going to the doctors, I hope this urges you to go and get sorted and hopefully get some kind of treatment. I also would like to point out that ulcerative colitis can vary so much. Some people have really mild symptoms and some people have really severe symptoms where they need to be admitted and need to have emergency surgery. So I think when I got diagnosed I was somewhere in the middle. So I was diagnosed with moderate ulcerative colitis back in August 2016. It was 3 years ago, so I have made a few notes just to kind of help me like reignite my memory, because it was a while ago and I definitely don't have moderate colitis anymore. It has improved greatly, which I'm really grateful for. If you are here as a complete newbie and you don't know what ulcerative colitis is whatsoever, ulcerative colitis is one of the forms of inflammatory bowel disease. I need to point out that IBD is not IBS. IBD is inflammatory bowel disease, IBS is irritable bowel syndrome. They are similar in some of the symptoms, not all of them, but they are also very different in that IBS is, there was a proper word for it but I can't think of what it is, but it's a syndrome, it's not a disease, it's not a life-threatening condition, and it doesn't cause physical damage inside the colon or the intestines, whereas inflammatory bowel disease is an autoimmune disease. It causes sometimes lasting damage in the colon. It causes ulceration, inflammation, redness, swelling, all inside, which IBS does not. It also requires completely different treatments. And if left untreated, inflammatory bowel disease can become life-threatening, so it's really important to not confuse the two. IBS is awful as it is. It has awful symptoms. No one should go through any kind of pain, no matter whether you consider it severe or not. Not everyone copes as well as other people do either, so if you don't cope very well with IBS, I'm really sorry that you've got it. But yeah, it's really important to not compare or confuse the two, because like I said, if IBD is left untreated it can be life-threatening and they need different types of medical treatments. Whether you're going between the two and you're not sure which one you've got, please go and see a doctor so that you can go and get some kind of scope tests to check out what's going on inside you, and hopefully you will get the right treatment to improve your symptoms regardless of which one you've got. Sometimes people can have both as well. In my instance, I do have both. So my symptoms roughly started in my late teens, and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis officially in August 2016 when I was 23 years old. That's a long time to have symptoms before you get an official correct diagnosis. What had happened was, from my late teens I had had like just general bowel upsets, and I was told I had IBS, which I still do have IBS because I still have bowel symptoms when I'm in remission from IBD. I also want to quickly point out that I am going to be talking about blood, poo, all that kind of taboo subjects which really shouldn't be taboo, so if you don't like to listen to those stuff, you don't have to listen. I'm quite open talking about this sort of stuff, so to me it's not a taboo. I really don't think it should be. I think we should be able to openly talk about the issues that we have inside our bodies, because it's completely normal to poo, it's completely normal to have blood inside you. So yeah. So my initial symptoms as a teenager with IBS, possible mild IBD, was bloating after eating. I had regular diarrhea, and I just generally would consider myself to have had a sensitive stomach, which was probably the first warning flag, and I did not seek medical treatment around that time. And when I did have, I don't know, more worsened symptoms of diarrhea, when I had diarrhea more frequently and I went to the doctors about it, they told me that I had IBS and that I could take either ibuprofen or paracetamol to ease the pain, and other than that it wasn't anything to worry about. So I was quite happy with that at the time. I took paracetamol. The abdominal pain did subside when I had paracetamol at the time, and I just had regular like flare-ups, I would say, of what I thought was IBS, until around January 2016 when my symptoms got worse and my pain wasn't reduced by paracetamol. I found things got worse when I took ibuprofen, so I stopped taking it because I realised that seemed to be a little bit of a trigger for me. So on top of the like usual sensitive stomach issues I had, which was bloating, abdominal pain, mild abdominal pain, and diarrhea, regular diarrhea, I started to get extreme abdominal pain And when I say extreme, I mean to the point where I was hunched over, crying my eyes out, and when I went to the toilet, I would get feverish and I would feel like I was going to vomit because the pain was so intense. I was getting a high temperature from the pain as well, and that kind of pain is not normal. I thought I was over exaggerating. I have this kind of innate worry that people aren't going to believe me, that my pain isn't really that bad, I'm over exaggerating. I don't know why, maybe that's something shit from my childhood, but yeah, I just had this worry in the back of my head that it's really not that bad, other people have it worse than me, I will be fine, it will go away. And that kind of mindset did not help me, because I think any kind of pain should be warranted as a worry, and just because other people have it worse than you doesn't mean that what you've got isn't bad. And that's something that I've learned over the years of having this illness. So other additional symptoms I started to get, I've wrote them down so I don't miss anything off. On top of the extreme pain before and during going to the toilet, I was starting, like, my diarrhea was getting worse and worse, and it was getting to the point where I was going to the toilet up to 20 times a day. Again, that is not normal. And I wasn't always finishing every time I went to the toilet, so sometimes I would go to the toilet, it would be urgent, I'd have to run, I'd have 5 seconds to get to that toilet, I would go, and then I would feel a little better, I would get up off the toilet, come back into my bedroom because I wasn't very well, so I was in my room, and 2 seconds later I'd have to run to the toilet again. I had really bad urgency, so if I did not go to the toilet, I would have an accident. And I did have a few accidents initially when I was first diagnosed, or about to be diagnosed, and again, accidents are not normal. You should not have any kind of, you should not be bowel incontinent with IBS. That is not normal, that is not IBS. With the increased going to the toilet, I started to notice blood in the toilet. It started off with just a little bit, which made me think, oh, I've probably got, I don't know, some kind of polyp, or I've strained myself, or it's a fissure, like I've ripped the anus, which sometimes can happen if you're going to the toilet regularly and wiping regularly. You can kind of damage the skin around the anus, and that can cause some kind of bleeding. So it was just on the toilet paper, and then it got to the point where it was in the toilet as well, little droplets of it, and then it got worse and worse to the point where the blood was splattering all over the toilet whenever I went for a poo. Sometimes I was going to the toilet feeling like I really needed to go, and there was no poo, and it was just blood streaming out, and then I couldn't have a pump because blood was leaking out into my underwear if I had a little pump. And I was, obviously, this sounds so silly, those symptoms are, looking back, clearly very alarming, and I was worried about them, but I was scared to go to the doctors because what I thought was a lot of blood might be just a rip, and someone might think I was being silly. I don't know, I just had this weird, I had this weird outlook on it, and I don't know why I thought that. I shouldn't have thought that at all. Clearly the amount of pain I was in, I don't know why I thought the amount of pain I was in wasn't justified. I was in a lot of pain. I was bleeding really badly. I was going to the toilet a silly amount of times in the day. I was getting feverish because the pain was so intense. I was really struggling with work because at the time I worked part-time in a preschool as the deputy manager, and it was hard. When you're in a preschool, you have like an adult to child ratio. So if someone needed to pop out to do some, I don't know, photocopying or have a meeting or something, and you were in that ratio, you couldn't physically leave that room because legally you had to be in that ratio, even if you needed to nip to the toilet. So I found it really difficult. I ended up having a lot of time off work, and as a deputy manager that put a lot of strain on everyone else, and yeah, it really didn't go very well at all. I believe it was either the June or the July time that I went to go and see my GP about the symptoms I was having, and I think Eric came with me. Eric is my boyfriend. I can't remember because I was so worried. I had seen adverts online about if you've got blood in your stool you might have cancer, you need to see someone. So in the back of my mind I was thinking, have I got cancer? I don't want to have bowel cancer, because my granddad passed away with bowel cancer when he was 59, so that was in the back of my mind. I was really stressed out, I was so worried, it was unreal. I remember breaking out really badly with acne and just generally feeling really run down because I was so stressed out about it. I went to see my GP. She was the loveliest lady ever. I explained my symptoms. I was clearly very panicked about it, so she was really calming. She did the finger up the bum to feel if there was any, like, I think they're checking for like a prolapse or like any kind of like issues up there. She said she couldn't feel anything specifically that she was looking for, so she mentioned that she thinks I might have colitis, At the time I had never heard that word before in my life. I was like, colitis? What on earth is colitis? She told me that I shouldn't be worried, but she was going to make me an urgent referral to gastroenterology at the hospital to make sure that it's nothing more serious, but she didn't think it was something more serious than colitis. So of course I came home, started googling colitis, and loads of like scary stuff came up, like colonoscopies and having a bag and having to have surgery, and I was petrified. So for the 2 weeks for my referral, I was just shitting myself the whole time, literally and metaphorically. Like, I was so scared, and it probably didn't help. Like, all that stress was probably making my bowels worse as well. So I eventually got a phone call from Gastroenterology, and they wanted to book me in for an emergency flexible sigmoidoscopy. A flexible sigmoidoscopy is very similar to colonoscopy, only it's a smaller one. It doesn't go up as far into the bowel. It's to check the lower parts of the bowel. And I was given an enema, which I had to put up my bum. An enema it's basically like a bottle with a long tube on it. You're given some lube to help it get inside you, and it's a fluid that induces emptying your bowels. It's awful. I really didn't enjoy it at all, but I think it would be okay with someone who doesn't have inflamed bowels, but because my bowels were so inflamed, it burned. I remember crying on the toilet for a good 2 hours as everything was just coming out. It was burning, it was stinging, there was blood, just blood absolutely everywhere. It was horrendous, and Eric was bringing me like a bottle of water because I was so feverish, I was hot, I was sweating from the pain. This is when you know you've got like couple goals, when you are really comfortable with each other. When you're sitting on the toilet, bleeding from your backside, shitting all over the place, crying and in pain, and he's sat in front of the toilet just watching you in pain, just trying to keep you calm and giving you a bottle of water and just trying to like help you breathe through it. That was that was the moment when I realized this guy I need to keep. So I had my enema 2 hours before I had to go in and have my flexible sigmoidoscopy. I went in, I was really worried about it and panicked. My anxiety and my heartbeat was through the roof, so they gave me sedation. They also recommended the sedation because it could be quite painful. If I was stinging from an enema, it's likely there is some kind of inflammation inside, so they said the sedation would help with that as well. So I had the sedation. It wasn't what other people have said sedation is like. Other people have said that they feel really high and just really happy and stuff, but I didn't get that. Maybe my anxiety was too high, so it just kind of brought me back down to normal instead of making me feel like really low. Yeah, I just felt just slightly calmer. Like when they put it in through, because they give you a cannula and they put the sedation through the cannula, and they also have to give you oxygen as well, so I had an oxygen tube around my nose just to make sure that I could breathe properly while I'm sedated. So when they gave me the sedation, I did feel like a sense of calming down, like in my head. I don't know how else to explain it, but I didn't feel high or happy. I was still worried about what was going on. They then put the tube up my bum. I could see my bottom, well, inside my bottom on the screen, and instantly straight away they said, yeah, you have colitis, you have ulcerative colitis. This is inflammation, you can see the ulcers, you can see the broken skin where you're bleeding, it's quite swollen. And I have never ever shared these images before online. I've always been quite worried about it, and I'm not sure why, but today I am breaking that taboo, and I'm going to show you what my inside of my bum hole looked like right here at the time when I had moderate colitis. And I will also put a little comparison photo down here of what a normal colon should look like and what mine looked like at the time. And you would never have thought that my colon looked like that if you had met me in person at the time, because I just looked like this. I just looked as normal. I went to work. Albeit did struggle through work, but I felt like I was pretty good at hiding it. And yeah, you would never have thought that that was going on at the time. You would never have thought that I was, every time I went to the toilet, in writhing pain and just bleeding everywhere. So hopefully showing this can help people realize that these illnesses are invisible, and just because someone seems okay on the outside, that they're not struggling on the inside. So yeah, I got diagnosed that exact same day. So from going to the doctors in June or July and having my appointment in the August, like 1 month, 2 months, I got diagnosed. They gave me a course of prednisolone that same day, and then I was referred onto the IBD team within the gastroenterology ward in the Freeman Hospital, which is my hospital at the moment. and I was assigned an IBD nurse, and I was given her contact details so I could contact her and talk to her around my appointments. And ever since then it's kind of been history. I've trialed different medications to get to where I am today. I've had roughly 8 weekly appointments, so every 8 weeks I would go back. Sometimes when I was feeling a bit better that was pushed to 12 weeks, sometimes when I was even worse it was pushed down to 4 weeks, but roughly every 8 weeks I would go and see my IBD specialist, who has been absolutely brilliant. They've helped me so much. I really feel like they understand what it feels like to have this condition. Thank God I ended up getting a few months of remission at one point thanks to a medication called azathioprine, which I'll be doing a video talking about all the different medications I've tried so far. I'm still in a flare at the moment. I have mild colitis at the moment, and I haven't had moderate colitis since that moment. I think I had it moderate up until the following year, 2017. I'm so grateful that I didn't have it as long as what other people have had it, or as severe as what other people have had it. So yeah, that's my journey into how I got diagnosed with colitis. If you have any other questions that you want to know about, please leave them down below. I will be making more videos about my general journey into getting remission, the different medications I've tried. I might make a video specifically about flexible sigmoidoscopies and colonoscopies because I've had quite a few of them now. I think I've had about 4 or 5 in the 3 years that I've been diagnosed. I did ask if you have any questions on Instagram, and I did get a couple that I would like to share in this video. Some of them aren't necessarily relevant to like being diagnosed, but they are good questions, so I'm actually going to save them for future videos, so I will cover them. I will answer your questions. I'm keeping this video to like being diagnosed. So someone has asked, how long did it take you to realise something more was going on and to go to your GP? I kind of covered it before, but basically when I started bleeding and when the pain was excruciating, that's when I realised it was definitely more than IBS. Blood is not normal in IBS. You should not have blood. Extreme pain, again, not normal. It shouldn't be extreme, like to the point where you can't function. Also, when I was going to the toilet like 20 times a day, and like that is not normal. I don't think people with IBS go to the toilet that much. I mean, I'm not an IBS expert, but yeah, that's not okay. It's not okay going to the toilet like 20 times a day. And then someone else has asked, what's the most valuable advice that I've learned over time, which I wish I knew in the beginning. I wish I knew that my pain is valid. What I'm experiencing is valid, and I shouldn't be comparing myself to other people who have it more serious than me. All pain is pain. It doesn't matter who you are, it just depends on how you cope with it. And if you're not coping well, and if you're struggling, and if you're just generally not happy with your health, how you feel matters, and it really doesn't matter if someone else has it worse than you. It doesn't matter if you don't think you're worthy of getting some kind of support and help, because you do matter. So that is the advice that I would have given to myself back then, and I wish I went to the doctor sooner and I didn't let this kind of worry that, oh, I might be over exaggerating, or it might not be that bad, or it might not be serious, stop me from getting the help that I needed, and I might not have had such a bad flare that I did have. I was going to say I hope you enjoyed this video, but I don't think this video is the kind of one that's meant to be enjoyed. I hope you found it useful and informative and helpful. If you did, don't forget to leave a like down below. If there's anything that you would like to know, like I said, please leave the questions down below and I'll try to answer them in my next videos. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel because I am going to be doing more videos like this, especially now that I've got my lovely ring light that I got for my birthday, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!